You can change numbers into base 10 blocks, but you can also change them into counters, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But first off, we got to look at what counters are. Counters are anything that you can use to count with, but they can't be base 10 blocks. You can't use base 10 blocks. You got to pick something else. So you can pick pictures of people, pictures of animals, pictures of shapes. It's your choice, but they can't be base 10 blocks. Now the question says, represent the number 132 using counters. If you see the word counters, you got to start thinking, okay, what counter am I going to use? Now I like monkeys, so I'm going to use monkeys for my first example. But before we put the monkeys down, I got to make my HTO table. That's right. Every question has to start with this, so you know where the numbers go. Now I look at the question here and I say, okay, I have 2. So that must mean I need 2 monkeys, right? That's exactly right. But you got to put them in the right spot. Do you put them under the hundreds, the tens, or the ones? And if you said ones, you're right, because the 2's in the 1 spot. So I put 2 monkeys in the ones. And then I move over next door to the tens. And I say, okay, just put 3 monkeys here. And then in the hundreds, the 1, put 1 monkey there. And now we have a system here where we could use counters to show the number 132. Now, there's another rule that you got to understand for counters, and that is if you choose monkeys for one spot over here, like for the hundreds, you can't change the animal and start, picking like rhinos or hippos for the next one and giraffes for the last one. Whatever you choose, you got to choose for the entire number. Okay, so I picked monkeys, I used it in the entire number right there. Another thing is this. Let's say I didn't use HTO. Let's say I forgot to put it here. I forgot to put it in the question. Let's say it's disappeared. Do you have any idea what number that represents? Well, maybe you do, because in your mind you're probably thinking, okay, there's spaces between them, so that must mean the hundreds and the tens and the ones, so that's 132. Okay, fair enough. But what if I mix them all up like that? Now do you know what number that states? Well, you know what? No, you don't anymore, because the HTOs are gone and it's a mess. And that's why it's important to put the HTO every single time so you keep your numbers organized and sensical. What number is being represented by the counters below? Now look, in this question here, remember I said you could use anything for counters? And I really meant it. Like here I'm using Super Mario. And now I'm doing the question backwards. So I'm giving you the counters. I'm not asking you, I'm giving it to you. You don't have to give me counters. You just have to give me the number. Because it says right here, what number is being represented? Okay, fair enough. Let's see how we could do this. So we have 2 in the hundreds. I could write 2. We have 1 in the tens. Put a 1 and then 3. 1. And we have 3 in the 1 spot. So I write 3. And what number does that say? 213. Ninja Turtles. All right, Mr. Melhem, I got to do this. Ninja Turtles, stand back, mister. I'm doing this question. Okay. So what do we have here? We got 1 Ninja Turtle in the hundreds, so I'll put a 1 down. Very good. We got the tens here. What do we put for the tens? There's nothing there. There's no Ninja Turtle. So, okay, I guess we got no Ninja Turtles. And then over here we have 3 in the ones, so I'll just write 3. So, Mr. Melhem, it's got to be 13, right? No, it's not right. And you know why it's not right? Because you forgot to put HTO. You have to write your HTOs down, see? HTO. And you're going to see what happens if you make your HTO. HTO like that. When you make your HTO table like this, you put a 1 in the hundreds. That's right. But look at the tens. There's nothing there. You have to indicate that in your number. So you got to put a 0 there because it matters. There's no tens. And then for the ones, I've got 3 ones. So my number is going to be 103. Now, what's wrong with 13? If you put 13, I'll tell you what's wrong with it. Look, we got 3 ones. Yeah, that's right. Okay, the ones look good. But what's next door to the ones? Remember we got the tens next door? So you're telling me there's 110, but there isn't 110. There's 100. So you got to move that 1 next door. You got to bump it to the left, and you got to put a 0 in the middle. Now it's right. Now the last question here, boys and girls, we're going to look at the difference between base 10 blocks and counters. We're going to see how they're kind of the same and how they're different. So represent the number 145 using base 10 blocks and using counters. So 145, now look, we start it the same way. Doesn't matter if you're using base 10 or counters. You put HTO first. Now, we're going to start with the ones here. We got 5 ones, so I throw in 5 ones. Remember what ones look like. Go next door to the 4. That's the 10 spot. So we got 4 tens or 4 rods. Haha. We show our rods. And then we bump down to the left. We got one of the hundreds. Remember, hundreds are flats. And we got 145. I don't know what this box is doing here. Let's get rid of it. Delete. And we get the number 145. Just like the question states. But for counters, I got to decide here. Okay, what kind of counter am I going to use? Let's see, what did I use here? Okay, we need 5 counters in the ones. All right, we got hearts. So we got 5 hearts. And then I go next door to the tens. I need 4 counters in the tens. And I need 1 counter in the hundreds. And that says 145 or 145. It's the same numbers, just different ways of representing them. Now let's see what's the same and what's different. Okay, what's the same and what's different between these two systems? Well, I think if you look at it carefully, it's easy to see what's different. On the left side, we actually have base 10 blocks. In the 100 spot, you have to put a flat. You can't put any rods in the 100 spot. You got to put flats. In the 10s, you got to put rods, and in the ones, you got to put little baby units. But with counters, they all look the same. The only thing that's indicated here is how many of each we have. So we have 1 of the hundreds, we have 4 of the 10s, and we have 5 of the ones.